Good morning, and thank you so much for joining me for our Daily Spark with Dr. Angela. I am your host, Dr. Angela Butchester. You know what I'd like to do on my show. I want to enlighten you. I want to inspire you. I want to empower you to become your best self. The scripture reminds us that the tongue is a small thing that makes grand speeches, but a tiny spark can set a great forest on fire. And today, we want to get you fired up about a kid's book. We'll be talking about life lessons and consequences today. My guest is Joya Kezas, and we're talking about her book, Mrs. Rabbit's Pie. So go on, get comfy, get cozy, get your coffee or get your tea, because we are about to get started. Good morning, Joya. Thank you so much for spending time with us here on Daily Spark with Dr. Angela.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Now, just in case we have a few folks out there that are unfamiliar with you or with your work, can you tell us a little bit about yourself? What makes you you?
Well, I'm a Bermudian. That means an island person. Okay, number one. And I've relocated to the States, married, and I've served in the Air Force. I was in the U.S. Air Force, and I have 2 sons, and I have 4 great-grandchildren that they have given me, 14 grandchildren and 4 great-grandchildren. So I live in San Diego and with my husband, and I'm an active member of the Baha'i Faith. I don't know if you've heard it, but that's who I am. I have 2 degrees, Bachelor of Science and Master of Social Work. I love His Holiness Jesus Christ.
That is amazing. Thank you so much for sharing that, and thank you for your service in the Air Force. Now, about being an author, is that something that you've always wanted to do, or did you find that that was just the next thing presented to you along your life path?
You're right. It just, I was teaching. I've always taught children's class. So I got into teaching children's class and here in San Diego, and I started to, I got inspired, and I decided to write this book. Now, this book is very special because I did the illustration myself. All the illustrations I've done myself. So I wrote the book, and I was having fun when I wrote it, because it has poetry in it. But, you know, I hope you guys get to see. I'm sorry that you didn't get to see a copy of it, but it's a really nice book. It's for children, age 8.
Great. Now, the title of your book, Mrs. Rabbit's Pie, how did you come about that title?
Because I decided to write, and I thought about Mrs. Rabbit. It just formulated in my head. Okay, well, I have Mrs. Rabbit in the kitchen, and what's she doing in the kitchen? She's baking pies. Well, who else lives in the house? And it just build and build and build. I got Morris the Mouse, Grandpa, and it all just build and build and build. Okay?
Now, when you were writing the book, did you have a particular age group in mind? For so many people, when they think children's book, would it include like pre-K all the way up to, let's say, middle school? Or did you think, no, I want to do this just very specifically for perhaps those 2nd and 3rd graders out there? Did you have a particular kid in mind when you were writing the book?
So I would say 8 years old, from 5 to 8, would find the book exciting. They would find it instructive, but mostly exciting.
Now, for so many of our authors that are on and that have written books that are targeted towards adults, a particular thing has happened in their life, and it has inspired them, or it's kind of nudged them to go on and write, to share the experience how they saw fit. Did you find that you had a particular thing that inspired you to say, yeah, I need to start writing and I need to write now?
Well, I was professional. My professional career as social worker, that inspired me, along with teaching children. So I think that's what I was a professional career as social worker. I was doing family children, excuse me, a family and children section of it. So I had a lot of experience being around children. Okay, and I love children very much. I feel that they're going to rule the world. They'll save us from ourselves. And they are so unique, and they are treasures. We should really treasure our children.
Absolutely, absolutely. I agree with you there. Children are definitely a gift from God. Now, for some people, they try to write about something that could be targeted for today's climate, something that's relevant, it's in the news and they want to address it. With kids' books, we're not necessarily tackling, political news or even trying to write about something that may be current in the immediacy of it all, but yet you're still writing about something that's important. Why do you think that your book is relevant for today? How does it fit into today's climate?
Well, Mrs. Rabbit's Pie is a story about a bad rabbit. Well, he wasn't bad. But what makes this book different, it has poetry in it. And poetry is like music. Music goes to our souls. And it makes it easy to remember. So I want the listener to know how we teach our children will last a lifetime. This means teaching them foundations of right and wrong. Consequences can be life or death matters. And Mrs. Rabbit's Pie tells the story of a young rabbit who learns this the hard way.
I have to agree with you. We do have to spend time making sure that we teach those life lessons to our little ones, definitely before they need to know it, so that they'll know what to do if ever given the situation. I have to agree with you there. Now, what makes your book different? I tend to ask this of all of my guests, because, there's that person that's out there that's saying, everyone always says that their book is special and that their book is different. Well, I think it's a great question to ask, to give each author an opportunity to explain how their book actually is different. So that's the next question for you. How do you think that your book is different than some of the other kids' books that are out there?
I think it's different because it has, like I said before, it has poetry in it, and not too much poetry, but enough poetry to get you excited and interested. And like, for instance, when Tweety Rabbit tries to Tweety Bird tries to warn Tweety Rabbit about still in the pie. That's done in a poem, but he pays no attention to it. But that sort of is what I mean is different from, in other words, Terry Bird sings, "You'll be sorry and so sad when you realize you were bad." So, I'm sorry, I'm talking all over myself, but that's the beauty of this book. It's different. It has And the boys say at the end, that we were bad, and so we have to face the consequences. But they learn, Tweety Rabbit learns that he mustn't steal. If you steal, bad things happen to you, okay?
And I think that it is definitely a lesson that needs to be learned, because I know that many times children will just inadvertently take things, and it's not that they're trying to be malicious in any way. They're like, oh, I like this, I want to take it with me, but not realizing how much trouble they can get themselves in, or even perhaps their parents. So you're right. We do have to make sure that we teach them the lessons accordingly, and depending on where you live or all of some other factors, it could really it could be a hard lesson to learn. So we definitely need to make sure that we address it young. So I agree with you there. Well, Joya, it is time for us to go to break. But before we do, can you remind everyone, please, what is the title of your book? Where can we get a copy? And how do we stay in contact with you?
Okay, the name of the book is Mrs. Rabbit's Pie. You can get a copy at Amazon. Amazon has it on sale. Barnes & Noble has it there as well. You can get in touch with me, kezasjoya@yahoo.com. Okay? My email address.
You know where you can get a copy of the book. We'll be back. And we are back. Thank you so much for joining me for Daily Spark with Dr. Angela. I am your host, Dr. Angela Butchester. My guest today is Joya Kezas, and we're talking about her book, Mrs. Rabbit's Pie. Now, I love it, and you guys know that I love having children's book authors on, because they are able to convey such great messages to our children in a way that it is easy for them to understand. And let's face it, sometimes reading a kid's book is just what we adults need to do as well. A great reminder for us that we can also have a little bit of fun, bringing some joy and happiness into the lives of our little ones. So, Joya, the next question that I have for you is about your writing process. So many times we have folks that contact us and say, thank you, Dr. Angela, for asking those questions. I'm an aspiring writer, and it's helpful to know what other people are doing, because it helps kind of put us on the right track, if you will. Even though we understand that each writer is different, I'm going to kind of pick your brain going down that path. So with that being said, did you find that you needed a particular environment or atmosphere in order to write successfully? Or was it more so just a particular time of day? I know some people like to write early in the morning or late at night. Did you need any of that in order to really be able to get into your writing?
No, I didn't. I'm retired now, and I'll sit at the computer and I just start writing. And this is the first book. I've got 1, 2, 3 more other books that I finished. Stories from Bermuda. Jake Speak Lie, and Mr. Smith and the 23. So I've got a lot of books that haven't been published yet.
Now, do you have any particular advice that you would like to give to aspiring writers out there, be it that they're trying to write a kids book or they want to write a book that may be geared more towards adults? But do you have any author-to-author advice for them?
Yeah, my advice is you pray every day. I get up in the morning and say my prayers, and you get inspired. And you write. You just write. I also have written poetry, book of poetry. So, I don't know, everybody I feel can write. And it all depends on you following through with it.
And I think that is a great piece of advice, is that you need to learn to follow through with it. I was just talking about that in another platform. And so many times people will start something, but then they don't follow through, and then they say, well, that didn't come to fruition, that didn't manifest. And it's like, that's not really true. It's that you didn't follow through in order for it to manifest. So you are so right with that. Now, if there is one particular takeaway that you want to make sure that not necessarily the children who read the book, but for the parent who or the adult that chooses to purchase a copy of the book, do you have a message that you would like to convey to them when it comes to purchasing a copy of one of your books?
My advice is how you purchase the book. You go to just ask for the book, Mrs. Rabbit's Pie, and my name, Joya Kezas, Kezas, and you get the book. Your child will like it because it's blue and it has the pictures on the front and that I drew. So, and 3D Rabbit is holding the pie. There's tears coming out of his eyes. And Grandpa Rabbit is standing there looking at him. It's all very, 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 very enlightened. I'm sure my readers will enjoy it.
Now, speaking of the illustrations, and you kind of touched on this a little bit earlier, you decided that you wanted to share your illustrations. Why was it important for you to illustrate the book as opposed to hiring, outsourcing it to someone else? Why was that near and dear to your heart?
Because I am not really an artist, but I just felt I felt it inspired that time. It was near and dear to my heart because I felt that I could do it. And so I set myself to doing it. I drew Treaty Rabbit, I drew Mrs. Rabbit, I drew the Morris Mouse. So, and I did Weasel, Mr. Weasel. So, Eddie Weasel. It's been a while since I did the book, but, and it's got Treaty Rabbit sitting underneath the tree. So, I had a lot of fun doing it. It was very, very enjoying to me. So I figured that other people hopefully will find it enjoyment too.
Now, for so many of the authors that I have talked to, when I ask this particular question of them, they say that it gives them energy. Here's the question. Do you find that when you're writing that it energizes you, or does it drain you? Like, is it exhausting to write, or in your case, to illustrate as well? Or do you find that it kind of gives you that extra bit of energy because it's exciting to be working on a project that's solely your creation?
It is exciting, and it is not, it can be, you get right into it, and then the time goes on and on and on, and and so it could be draining that way, but it's not in a negative way. You get into it, you're all wrapped up into the writing, and you're enjoying it every minute of it. And so I don't know if that's what you mean, but anyway, that's what I did.
I understand exactly what you're saying there, and I can definitely understand. I love it. Now, you've mentioned that you have other books, so I don't want to assume, but does this mean that there will be new books that you will be releasing in the future, or do you think that you're going to take a break from writing?
No, there's new books that be introduced in the future. The stories from Bermuda, there was 4 stories, 20 and the Forbidden Swimming Hole, that's one. The Doug the Slug, Lee the Centipede, and the Game of Cricket is another one. So they're a compilation of 4 in one book, 4 stories in one book. Then there's about the cats and Mr. Smith and the 23. They go, that's one story. And Jake's Big Lie, that's another story. It's Jake trying to be, he's trying to fit in the community. So, that's what that's all about. So.
Well, we wish you continued successes in all of your writings. I love it. Well, Joya, thank you so much for coming on Daily Spark with Dr. Angela and spending time with me here today. We think that, again, children's book authors are just genuinely special because you guys are touching the hearts of our future generations. So thank you for coming on and sharing. So before I let you go, one last time, though, please, could you remind everyone of the title of your book, where we can get a copy, and, of course, how do we stay in contact with you?
The name of the book is Mrs. Rabbit's Pie. You can get a copy at Amazon or Barnes & Noble. And you can reach me by Joya Kezas at yahoo.com. The hosts of Supreme Concourse are in maternal array, poised between earth and heaven, ready to rush to the assistance of those who arise to teach the faith. If one seeks the confirmation of the Holy Spirit, one can find them in rich abundance in the teaching field. The world is seeking. And you're welcome.
So much for that beautiful message. And listeners, thank you for spending time with us as well. As always, may the Lord continue to shine his face upon you. May you receive his grace and his mercy in all that you do. Until next time, everyone, remember, you are blessed in the Lord. Have a great day, everyone. Good morning, and thank you so much for joining me for Daily Spark with Dr. Angela. I am your host, Dr. Angela Butchester. You know what I like to do on my show. I want to enlighten you. I want to inspire you. I want to empower you to become your best self. The scripture reminds us that the tongue is a small thing that makes grand speeches, but a tiny spark can set a great forest on fire. And today we want to get you fired up as the spiritual community. Our guest today is Christopher Perkins, and we're talking about his book, Ministry Mechanics. You know what I'm going to tell you to do. Go on, get comfy, get cozy, get your coffee or get your tea, because we're about to get started. Good morning, Christopher. Thank you so much for joining me for Daily Spark with Dr. Angela.
Good morning, doctor. It's good to be with you.
I am so glad that you are here. Now, before we talk about your book, as is the custom here on the show, we give our author guests an opportunity to introduce themselves to perhaps the 1 or 2 people out there that are unfamiliar with you or with your work. So my first question to you is, what makes you you? Who is Christopher Perkins?
You know, I think the thing that I wanted to emphasize the most about me is that there's nothing to emphasize about me. I wanted to represent myself as most people are in the world, and just a common person.
Gotcha. Well, being an author, is that something that you've always wanted to do, or did you find that was just the next thing along your life path?
No, it was very accidental. A good friend of mine who was a department head at Syracuse University, and who was a published author himself, used to love to talk to me about the ideas I had about building infrastructure spiritually within a community. And he just said, you ought to write it down in a book. I told him I wasn't a writer, and he said, well, you've got a writer in you. Give it a try. I did, and within a year and a half, I was able to self-publish a book.
Absolutely. I love it that when it is meant for you, it will definitely happen. I love it. Now, the title of your book, Ministry Mechanics, how did you come about that title?
So many times over the years when I was able to work with different types of ministries, different sizes of ministries, whether it was my own or someone else's in consultation, a lot of times I would think to myself, what in the toolbox is needed here? Is it hands-on? Is it philosophical? Is it purely spiritual? Is it just a matter of wait and see? And I started equating these things literally to a wrench, pliers, wire snips, you name it. And after a while, I started feeling like whenever I was called to consult, I took out my proverbial toolbox, and it just became kind of my own catchphrase, a ministry mechanic.
Gotcha. Now, when you were writing the book, did you have a particular audience in mind as far as who you were trying to reach?
Yes, actually, anybody who wanted to be involved in a community, not just a spiritual community, not just a Christian community. The themes in the book are actually pretty universal, with the main vehicle being how to build spiritual community within the confines of the Christian church, which I'm a part of. But it really works in any type of setting. I mean, it could even work in an employment setting. It's just a matter of some practicals on how to build relationships within any kind of dynamic.
Now, how do you suggest that someone read your book in order to really glean from it the most information possible? Should they read from cover to cover, chapter by chapter? What do you suggest?
I think chapter by chapter. I think most people, if they're picking up the book and they're looking for something, they've got something in mind. Maybe it's a question, maybe it's something they're mystified by, maybe it's something they feel like they're just absolutely missing and they can't figure it out. And I think just going through the bullet points, the chapters listed by bullet point, they'll be able to see something, pick something out. I don't think cover to cover is helpful unless you're looking to just totally digest something. But I think just going bullet point by bullet point, based on your own needs.
Absolutely. And I always ask that question because I think that the author knows best, how to make sure that you're digesting it properly. And you're right. So many times people feel as though they must read it cover to cover, and they've missed something because they didn't pause to really take in the information, roll it around, sleep on it a little bit, even ponder and question, and then go back and read again to make sure that they fully understood the intention there. So you're definitely right about that. Now, as far as the age group of the reader is concerned, would you say that a teen, like someone in high school, would be able to understand your concepts, or is it someone who's perhaps a little bit older or more mature in their faith?
I think anybody that wants to be a part of something, if you think about the way communities work in our world today, kids are, excuse me, I wanted to think along the lines of, if I can get somewhat philosophical here for 2 seconds, how does Satan work with relationships? How does darkness and evil work with relationships if Satan is not your, soup du jour as far as evil entity? How are people seduced into things? They're usually seduced into things through relationships. And those kinds of relationships can happen, and I can attest to this, as far back as elementary school. Getting involved in gangs, getting involved in drugs, getting involved in, who knows what. Disobeying parents. A lot of that comes from looking and seeing other kids do it. So I think, whatever age you feel like you can read, I wrote the book as much on an elementary level as I could. I wanted to follow the example of Jesus, who spoke to the masses who were uneducated, unread, untrained. And I wanted as much as possible to be able to appeal to that. So whatever age a person feels like they can read the book and halfway understand it, I think they would be able to get a significant amount out of it, whether they want to be a part of or start a group or just understand how group dynamics work.
I like that answer. Now, I love how you explained that the mechanics portion of why you chose to include that in your title. Now, for someone who is saying, I think I may have a ministry that needs a mechanic, would you say that your book is the perspective of preventative care, like that going in and, it's been 6 months, let's go in for a checkup type thing? Or would you say that it's more so the check engine light has already come on? At what portion should they pick up a copy of the book and really utilize your instruction?
Yeah, I know that's a great question. I think if we can go ahead and use the analogy of a car. If you're going to buy a car, you want to know about it. Once you get the car, let's say it's a used car. Once you get the car, you want to know the ins and outs of it, what it can do, what the bells and whistles are about. Once you get that car and it starts to break down or the check engine light comes on, you want to know how to access information about that. If the car is making weird noises, you want to, such and so forth, et cetera, et cetera. The book caters to all of that. If you're going to buy a car, it can tell you about the car. If you're even just interested in the car, it can tell you about the car. If you're wondering what practical use the car has for you, what's going to be the benefit to you personally, it can explain that. But it can also get into the nuts and bolts of things. Say you own the car and you need to fix it. Something's going wrong. It's making an odd noise. Check engine light's coming on. You're not sure what's going on. I have the book formatted in a way where if you go through the table of contents, each bullet point is almost like a different tool you can use to fix whatever the problem is. It's very itemized.
I love it. I love it. And I'm sure there's someone nodding their heads going, oh, good. Okay, great. That means that it is the book for me. Thank you for that explanation. Well, Christopher, it is time for us to take a very short break. But before we do, can you remind everyone, please, what is the title of your book? Where can we get a copy? And how do we stay in contact with you?
Yeah, again, the name of the book is Ministry Mechanics. It's listed on Amazon. If you go on Google, just put in Christopher W. Perkins, Ministry Mechanics, and it'll come up on Amazon in quite a few different languages as well. And I don't have social media. It's just not really my thing right now. But if you just email me, like a lot of customers have, it's cpkoste@gmail.com.
Alrighty, listeners, now you know where you can get a copy of the book. And we are back. Thank you so much for joining me for Daily Spark with Dr. Angela. I'm your host, Dr. Angela Butchester. My guest today is Christopher Perkins, and we're talking about his book, Ministry Mechanics. My next question for you, Christopher, is with so many of our authors, they realize that words are powerful at various stages in their lives. It may be a conversation they overheard between two people, physically within their space, a debate on television, something that happened at college, however it goes. At what point in your life were you when you realized that words were powerful, that they could really shift the paradigm of the reader?
I think when I wrote the book in roughly 2010, the gentleman I told you about earlier, the head of the art department, Syracuse University, he proofread the book for me several times, and I started realizing how to target an audience. And he kept challenging me, asking me, who do you want to target? Because my first copy, or my first proof, he's like, well, unless you have a doctoral degree, I'm not sure too many people will be turned on by this. And I had to figure out a way to be able to take my thoughts and to be able to turn them into words that even someone on an elementary school or junior high level could understand in the general public, and then take it to an even broader audience where maybe you're not a Christian, maybe you're not spiritual. Could you still get something out of it? So.
Absolutely. And I like that question, that mindfulness of you, because there are people that just because they weren't necessarily raised Christian doesn't mean that Christianity doesn't come into their lives at some other point. Or there's just this natural curiosity or some people are, forever the student. They're constantly learning about different things, and what a great way to be able to reach them as well. I like that. Now, what advice would you give to other writers? It sounds like you got some really good advice before you started writing your book. Do you have any particular nuggets of wisdom that you would like to pass on to someone else trying to start their writing career?
I think it has to be a calling. Where the calling comes from is varies as much as the individual. For me, even after he challenged me to write the book, it's still probably a good year or so before I felt like, okay, maybe this is something in me that I need to get out on paper. Because there's a degree of inspiration and diligence, research, being able to cite your sources, having to research those sources and go back and communicate with those sources so you don't run into legal issues. So it has to be first and foremost an inner calling and a burning to where you just got to do it. But my overall advice is, after all that's said and done, if there's something that you just seem to always share about and you're known for, don't be afraid to put it down on paper and open yourself up to the world.
I like that bit of advice. Now, another question that I tend to ask many of the authors here is about what makes your book different. We hear people say, well, my book is different because, but I also know that people, being people, will say everyone says that their book is different, the same way that they say that their children are the most beautiful children in the world. And someone may disagree with that, right? So I like to give my authors an opportunity to explain how their book is different or why their book is different. So that's my question to you. What makes your book a little different than some of the others?
I did do some research on whether there were actual practical ministry type technique books out there, and I didn't see a lot out there. I didn't see any, really. There are books on ministry, but they seem geared more toward the person that wants to go into like the full-time or somehow paid or ordained ministry. But a very important point that I want to emphasize, and hopefully I'll get to emphasize it again here in a moment, is I wanted to come from a place, and this is what makes it unique. I wanted to come from a place where the everyday Joe who just works a 9-to-5 or 9-to-9 type of job, who comes home every day, has a shower after work, takes his lunch to work in a metal pan type of thing, just a blue collar guy, maybe even a white collar guy, but somebody who has to clock in his time every day doing a job, taking care of family, loved ones, significant others, roommates, what have you, and doesn't necessarily get paid for pursuing his passions. I wanted that to be the difference maker. I wanted people to understand that they did not need a PhD, that they didn't need an MA or a BA or 16 years in a monastery. Or seminary. I wanted people to know that everybody has ministry within them. That's the difference I wanted to make through this book.
Oh, such a beautiful sentiment, and I think that people will appreciate that sincerity that you have there. That is so true. I love that sincerity that you have, and you're right. Everyone does have something to share, and especially when it comes to faith. And I think that for many people, the sincerity of the person giving witness. Many times we do not ask what qualifies you to be a witness to the greatness of God. Someone that either accepts your witness or accepts your story for what it is, or they dismiss it regardless of your education. So you are so right there. I love that. I love that. Now, when you were writing, did you find that you needed to separate yourself off from the hustle and bustle of the day? Like, did you need to be in a quiet space? Or did you find that a particular time of day worked best for you? Sunrise, sunset, early in the morning. What worked best for you?
Doctor, to tell you the truth, and this is just for me personally, I can't speak for everybody. And I'm doing this with another book I'm working on, which is already done. The body of the book itself, the transfer directly of information, thoughts, inspiration to paper is easy. I can do it anywhere. I could be in the bathroom. I can be in the middle of the cafeteria on my lunch break. I can be jotting down notes on my way to the store. Sometimes I would leave myself a voicemail, of a quick thought that I had, then write it down later. That's easy. That's the easy part. Everyone's got that within them. They've always got a story within them. The hard, the hard part and the discipline part that I really had to work hard through was the more publishing administrative aspects of it, getting editing, working with the publishing company, being able to work within a budget structure since, I'm not a millionaire and most people are not. That's the hard part, and actually that took me the longest time. But to sit down and write a 100 or 200 page book, I like to think most people have that within them. For me personally, that was easy. That just took really a few weeks.
I love asking that question because it really, I think, helps other authors. For so many, especially our young folks, they're trying to figure it out and how can I be successful at this? And they want all of those nuggets of wisdom. So thank you so much for sharing from your perspective. Now, when it comes to success, many times, as a society, we will say that in order to be successful, you have checked off the following boxes. Fancy car, big house, X, Y, and Z, diamonds, jewels, whatever, right? It tends to be this very material list of things that people will say. But when it comes to literary success, it may not necessarily be the same answer. Just because you've written a book doesn't necessarily mean a brand new, Porsche in the driveway. What does literary success look like to you? How will you know when you have achieved literary success for this book?
That's a great question, Doctor. I'm really pleased to be able to answer this one. I never had a monetary goal in mind. I never thought 1 minute, expected it or dreamed about it or anything that I was going to somehow make the New York Times bestseller list. That was never my intention. I simply wanted to be able to publish a book, in all honesty, for two reasons. I just wanted to do it. It was a bucket list thing for me. And also I wanted to send my mother a copy of the book, my late mother. That was important to me, that she saw something like that I was able to accomplish something like that, and it brought her great pride. I've achieved success well above and beyond what I ever could have dreamed, and none of it in monetary gains, if I can emphasize that for your audience. I've had some people from international countries call me to ask me questions about my book, or not call me, but email me to ask me questions about my book. Two very close colleagues I have now in India who run village churches in very poor, very, very rough areas, stay in close contact with me and I with them, and that just brings me such great joy. In fact, one of those pastors did a local evangelist seminar several years ago and invited probably 40 or 50 different church leaders from around that area, and they taught from my book different leadership styles and building community. And I said that was the spiritual honor of my life, other than my baptism. So I'm not sure if that answers your question. It's a little in the abstract, but that's where I feel like I have not only attained success, but even far above and beyond what I could have dreamed was successful.
Oh, that was an amazing answer. Absolutely. And that's why I asked that question, because people need to understand that so many times, and especially when we work in ministry, that it is not about that monetary gain. Like you said, it is the calling on your life, and you understand that your gains, your blessings, the accolades come usually in a different way. I have to agree with you. Being able to show a copy of your book to your mother, amazing. Just being a mother of a son myself, those moments you can't be prouder of your son. It's like, look at this awesome. So I can definitely relate to that. And you're right. Being called to ministry, however it is, either to preach the word, to share the good news, or simply to be that example of Christian-like love in the community, is something that we do not take lightly. I love it. I love that answer. Thank you so much for sharing that. Now, there may be someone out there that's saying, well, I want to share. I hear what you guys are saying, and I'm inspired, and I want to go out and I want to touch my community, but I don't know if I'm qualified. Does someone need to have a degree? Does someone need to have a certification or a qualification in order to share on this topic, to write about this topic? In your opinion, what are your thoughts on that?
Yes, you need one main qualification. You need a pulse. That's it. This question is very near. This question is very near and dear to my heart, Doctor, and I'm so glad you asked it. I wanted to de-emphasize any kind of qualifications that I had, especially in your intro when you introduced me, because I think, and I have nothing against it, when authors write books, the history of the Christian church is one where after the second century, when the Catholic Church got involved with the Christian church and the decline began to happen as far as going from Christian community to Christian corporation, I think we started separating lay people from the ministry. The first thing they did was they took the Bible, or they took the canonized letters and wrote it in Latin, thereby separating lay people from the ministry. Then they made it illegal for people to read the Bible outside of the ministry. Jesus brought the ministry to people. He touched people, whether you were a leper or whether you were a millionaire. And so by 325 AD, under Constantine, we blew that to pieces and created an incredibly wide chasm, I think, that we're still trying to dig out of. I wanted to write this book and de-emphasize anything about myself that might bring any kind of respect or adoration, and just let people know I put my pants on one leg at a time like everyone else. I have to take a shower at the end of the day because I smell bad from a day at work. I have to eat to stay alive. I struggle to pay my bills. And that's I got kids that drive me nuts. I got a wife who's got a honey-do list that drags on the floor. I'm just like every other person out there, and I wanted people to understand that having the Spirit of God in you to share something, some aspect of His Spirit that just really turns you on. All you need is a pulse, and all you need is some gumption, and go out there and share it. What happens after that is up to God's Holy Spirit.
Amen to that. I love that answer. Christopher Perkins, thank you so much for coming on and not only sharing about your book, but I think that you have definitely inspired someone to say, you know what, I need to stop dragging my feet on this. I too feel that tug of the call on my life, and I need to get out and make a difference. I think that you've definitely inspired someone to do that today. Well, before I let you go, if you could please one last time remind everyone of the title of your book and where they can pick up a copy.
Yeah, it's Ministry Mechanics under Christopher W. Perkins if you go to Google, and it's listed on Amazon.
I love it. Thank you again, Christopher, for being a guest here on Daily Spark with Dr. Angela.
Doctor, thank you for having me on. It was an honor.
Absolutely. Thank you. I'm so glad that you were here today. And listeners, thank you for spending time with me here as well. I hope that we have enlightened, inspired, and empowered you to be your best self. As always, may the Lord continue to shine His face upon you. May you receive His grace and His mercy in all that you do. Until next time, everyone, remember that you are blessed in the Lord. Have a great day, everyone.